Gift. I went to high school in a neighboring town and took the bus to school every day. I am not good with crowds, and I like to have plenty of time for everything, so I took an earlier bus to school every day. I sat in my usual seat at my usual time, played with my phone as usual, and rode my bicycle for about 10 minutes from the bus stop in front of the station, which took about 20 minutes to get there. Every day, this cycle repeated itself. It is a normal scene for an ordinary high school student. But for me, it was not normal, and I looked forward to it every day. The reason for this was the presence of a female student whom I had seen every day since I started using the bus. When I boarded the bus from my usual bus stop, she was always sitting in the second row from the back by the window. I assumed she was a girl who went to another high school because she was wearing a uniform. Just a glimpse of her presence every day was enough for me. One day, I overheard some gossip in the classroom. A high school girl in a neighboring town had died in an unforeseen accident, and her spirit was said to appear. Her hair was shoulder length, she wore glasses, and she seemed serious and quiet. I thought at the time that I had a poor accident close to home. Then a few days later, I overslept, and there was a day when I took the bus during the busiest time of the day. I boarded the bus thinking, wow, there are a lot of people. I wondered if I could sit down. I boarded the bus and found that only one seat was available. That seat was next to a seat where I always saw a female student sitting. I thought to myself, thank goodness it was empty. I sat down and took a breath, and for a moment a chill ran through the air. Then I glanced next to her and saw a high school girl I always see sitting there. Wow, seriously, this girl was late today too? I was surprised and excited at the same time. Thinking that such an opportunity may never come again, I decided to take the plunge and talk to her. Good morning. We always get on at the same time, don't we? I whispered to her. Then he turned his eyes toward me and said, good morning. Good morning. And smiled at me. I was so excited that I could not speak to her anymore. We arrived at the station in no time and went to school. During recess that day, my friends started talking to me. They said, hey, you took the bus at the same time as us today, didn't you? I overslept today. I don't like that time of day. Too many people. I said, that's not important, who were you talking to today? My friends were sitting in the first back seat and they saw me getting in. Then they saw me sitting right in front of them, talking to them. Oh, someone who is always in the same time zone as me. I don't know who he is, but he just happened to be sitting next to me, so I took the liberty of talking to him. My friends looked at me with curious expressions. What's up? Did you think I was picking on you all morning? I asked back jokingly. No, no one is sitting next to you. What? What are you talking about? No, that's why. No one was sitting next to you. I didn't understand the same thing he said. He said, you may not know this, but nobody sits in that seat at that time of the day. I don't know why, but everyone avoids that seat. Nobody sits there. That's why it was empty today, right? We were surprised to see you sitting there, because you didn't know that. We tried to talk to you, but you were talking to the empty seat next to you. I didn't understand. What? That can't be true. You couldn't see us from your place, could you? He couldn't see you because he's short. But my friends just shook their heads. I said to myself. They just saw it wrong, I said to myself. The next day, as before, I boarded the bus at the usual time and found the usual high school girl sitting in my usual seat. Because of what my friends had heard, I continued to commute to school with a bit of disbelief. As the days went by, I had to study for my entrance examinations, and every morning I boarded the bus and spent the rest of the day reading reference books on my way to school. I was convinced that it was a girl of the same age as me because I saw a high school girl sitting in my usual seat. I passed the exam without incident, and all that remained was to graduate. Then came the day of the graduation ceremony. It was the last time I would be using the bus that had taken care of me up to that point. I decided to take the plunge and give the high school girl a present. A necklace I bought with my meager allowance. All I had to do was give it to her. I decided to give it to her, and got on the bus. I went to the seat next to where the high school girl was sitting. "Good morning. May I come in?" "Good morning." She smiled. "I'm sorry to bother you so abruptly, but please accept this." He took the necklace out of his pocket and offered it to her. The high school girl looked at me without saying anything. Without any response, we arrived at the bus stop in no time. Unable to bear the delicate atmosphere, I took the high school girl's hand, forced her to give me the necklace, and got off the bus. As I got off the bus, I could only regret what I had done. However, I felt somewhat refreshed by the fact that I was able to give her the necklace, even if I had to force it. More than 10 years later, I went back to my hometown and decided to take the bus to the next town for the first time in a while. I waited at the bus stop, and the bus arrived shortly after. The entrance opened and I boarded the bus. I was so surprised that I thought my heart would stop. The high school girl was sitting in the seat where I was sitting at the time. A long time has passed since then, but her appearance has not changed. As I stood there, the sound of the entrance door closing brought me back to myself and I sat down near the driver. I couldn't turn around. I just kept feeling his cold, staring eyes on me. When I arrived at the next town and was about to get out of the bus. "What's that?" "You. I used to use this bus when I was in high school." The driver spoke to me. "What?" "Oh, yes. I used to go from the station I just got on to here." "Do you remember?" I asked. "Ah, I knew it. I somehow had an impression of it. It was early in the day, right? There weren't many high school students using the bus at that time of day. I rode alone every day." I greeted him lightly and hurriedly got off the bus. I could feel my heart beating loudly because it had happened so much. Taking a deep breath and trying to calm down, I looked behind the bus as it drove away and saw a high school girl looking at me through the back window. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "Good morning." "Thanks," I heard her say. This concludes this story. Thank you for listening to the end.